Hello, everybody. I have a really exciting day today, and I'm meeting my first teacher, and I never met him before. Can you believe that? I mean, we did speak a couple of times. Hi, Ivan. Are you here? Just click join the call. Hi, just waiting for Ivan to join. And Ivan is somewhere. Oh. Ah!
I'm
Turn it around. You're flipping.
okay. Is this the way?
It's the first time.
Yeah, brother. You're looking awesome.
Thank you. It's because of you.
Oh,
It's because of this.
all right.
You know,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I wrote, the conversation is, I'm meeting my teacher, my first teacher for the very first time. I mean, it's a bit crazy, but you have been my teacher through the cards. And the cards, they completely changed my life. Two cards.
Two
Actually,
cards.
Three. The first one was thought. I started with one. And then I followed the recommendation to toss them. And then the other one fell out, which was the healing side of pain.
Healing side of pain.
Uh-huh. And at that time, Ivan, I have been diagnosed with like ankylosing spondylitis back in 2012. It's like a very rare form of arthritis. So I was really sick. And when I read that card, and the card said basically, you have to love the disease. As far as I remember, it was about like, accepting it and finding the healing side of it. And I didn't really know what to do with the card. Basically, I've placed the card in my bathroom, and I lay down in the bathtub, and I just been looking at it and focusing on the edges, just like that. And like I was focusing and defocusing at the same time. But what I did, I was just thinking, what should I do? I just kept repeating the sentence, the healing side of pain, the healing side of pain, the healing side of pain. And I repeated it with all my force, with all my might, until I literally passed out for like maybe a few seconds, because I was really tired that day. I came from a business trip. I was really exhausted. And when I passed out, it blacked out. But then I woke up. I mean, it was just maybe a microsecond. Yeah. When I got up, the sentence was just going by itself. And I felt like a big relief, because my back was really in pain back then. But when it was like I got like a reset. It was like a microscopic reset. That passing out, it made me kind of just let go and just come back to myself again. And then I was totally in, because at that point, I knew exactly that the cause of the arthritis, it was due to the stuff which was going on in my mind. All the worries, all the thinking about tomorrow, about yesterday, about today, I couldn't fall asleep and everything. It was that. Yeah. So yeah. So but let me tell you. So the third card, that really, like, it's like it put a fixation and determination to keep going, because the third card was dropping our expectations. And dropping the expectations, when I read the text in the book, I saw that I was constantly expecting things from my business partner, my friends, my wife, everybody. And when they were not, living up to the expectations, for example, my ex-business partner, he used to be like late, and I like things on time. So I used to be really angry if he came 10 minutes, 15 minutes late, but this was going on all the time. The expectations about everything. And when I read the text, I thought, man, I am the one who is stressing myself with the expectations. And and I did the same thing with the third card. I just put it and I just repeated the sentence. I repeated it so many times, and I went to bed, and in the morning it was repeating by itself. And I had the best time of my life for 3 consecutive weeks, because I was going around everywhere and I was just repeating this sentence, all day long for 3 weeks, and everything was working out, magically. Everything was really just working out. I had only one problem. I couldn't have business meetings because I was keeping repeating the sentence. So eventually, after 3 weeks, it started to wane off. And I thought, oh God, and I started my worry started to come back, and I started to get back into my old state. But for the 3 weeks, I didn't have pain. I was sleeping before my wife, which is totally unusual. I was like a new person. So, and then I read your book. Because I thought, okay, I need, because I worked with the cards. I thought, what? And then I found Ivan's book, read the book, and I started to do the Lotus meditation. Health, it's all about consciousness. Unfortunately, I don't have it here with me. I didn't take it with me, but I have several copies in different locations. And I think also I bought at least 15 of these back then and gave it to my friends. So most of the Amazon UK ones, I think I bought them.
So you are the reason why we ran out of stocks.
Yeah, probably, because I was so excited. I really just I gave them to my friends and people I really cared about, because they're magic. I mean, I wanted all this time. I wanted to meet you and let you know about it. And here we're 5 years. I've done so much. Like, I wrote a book. I am a breathing practitioner. I am I'm healthy. I'm just totally different person. Although I'm still the same person, but I have a totally different perception of everything. And it's thanks to you, and it's thanks to these cards. And I thought, how could he not just keep on producing them? But I guess it's because you have them on the internet. Now everybody uses it online. And actually, everybody who's watching, I can recommend, I will send the links later, but on Ivan's site, you can go there, go to the Yantra cards, you can ask the question, then you can click and you get a random card, and it's amazing. But today, what we're going to do, we're just going to do it the old school way. I'm just going to drop a random card out when we're ready, and we're going to meditate on it. That's what I was thinking. But all these years, I wanted to ask you, how did you come to do this? I mean, how did you find these? How did you, design these things? These geometrical figures. Like, how did you start? How did you become a spiritual teacher? What was your move? What moved you?
Oh, brother. Yeah.
Or is that too long?
Yeah, see, I can talk about now so much.
We have plenty of time.
But about past, to talk about past is a little bit tough.
Okay,
because,
so let's not.
Yeah, because, it's not in a way, but it is. Because, you have to pick certain elements from your past that you make a reference point, as a reference point to make a point. But I don't know where to start, brother. Really, from which past? This past or the other past?
No, I mean, if it's uncomfortable, then don't. But I was thinking that this is very special work. Everything is calculated in there. There are 52 cards. 5 plus 2, we are in the 7. We are in the now.
Yeah.
52 is a very magical number because the middle star of Orion takes 52 years to align, as far as I know. 52 is a very special number for the Mexican culture, which I particularly really enjoy. And you know what's crazy, Ivan?
What?
What's crazy that only this year, I mean, we are 5 years, okay? It happened with me in January 2016 when I got the first card and I had the first stop in here. And only this year, or I mean, when, yeah, it was like, yeah, it was this year, beginning of this year. I looked at card 43 when I was doing the practice for the YouTube channel, and I realized that it's 7. It's also 7. That card is a 7.
It is the 7. Is the completion, you know, the cards represents the completion of your spiritual journey from the bottom to the top, from the lower chakra to upper chakra, because every chakra represents certain energy points. That is certain conscious aspect of you in this reality wanting to experience itself. You know, so that aspect has to be expressed, has to go through the journey, has to learn and understand and come back to itself. So 7 is a very important number. But
of course.
you know, the beginning, I remember being, you know, drawing triangles and squares and circles when everyone was learning math, you know, numbers, calculations, equations, and I was doing geometry. and I was doing it for a really long time. And funny enough, anytime I would go through certain situation with my own family or within my own self in relationship with my family, and by my family, you know, I was born in a very dysfunctional family. My father was alcoholic. My mother was devoted, you know, crazy Catholics who would beat us, me and my children, me and my sister every day for silly reasons, because her marriage didn't work. You know, she made really wrong choices. She was so unhappy. And my father was totally lost in his own mind and his own wounds and his own past. And projections about the future where he's going, and they clashed a lot. So my mother used to throw the, you know, frustration to me and my, you know, and my sister. So I was raised there. So the only way for me to escape was to, as you know, normally, no kids in those circumstances will go and invent certain imaginary friends, but that's not an imaginary friends. That's the opening portal for certain entities to come and, you know, interact in this reality. So because of the wounds and deep suffering, then it unconsciously opened the portal. I didn't know about that, but you know, for me it was not really. I didn't want to go into fantasy world, into that kind of, you know, twisted reality with 4D. You know, it's sort of like a lower astral entities and playing with it. But I knew that I have to channel my frustration. I have to understand something. I have to learn. I have to change something. But I didn't know what to change. But the only way for me was drawing geometry there. And then I found really big comfort and, you know, and deep understanding about, you know, what's going on there. An early age, I figured out that, you know, I was meant to do something important, but I didn't know what. You know, so I'm not inventing a rocket or
You're not the only one.
or the cure for the you know, viruses or something like that. But something important in, you know, in spiritual way, call it.
What age was that you knew that you realized that?
7, 5,
Yeah.
7. Then,
Okay.
age 8, then I found the first book. And the first book was about, actually I was 9. And my first book was I think her name, Barbara Brennan,
Mm-hmm.
and Astral Projection, the book
Uh-huh.
about astral projection.
Yeah.
And I was reading it and I was fascinated, but I didn't understand much the language because I was a kid. And I've been reading it and reading it. Every year I would read it for twice or three times and try to understand something. And age 10 or 11, you know, I started practicing what the book was talking about
Mm-hmm.
with certain sacred geometry, images that you project in your mind, and you play with your mind, and you twist and you move and you expand, and you include yourself into the geometry, and then at one point you open the portal. And I opened the portal, and I was above the ceiling, flying and looking at my body.
Yeah. Did you see yourself?
I saw myself, and I was stunned. It was so exciting. I was a kid. It was like, better than the movie. Yeah. And I looked above, and I could see the portal, and I could see the shiny toys out there that I could go and explore and play with. It's like stars and cosmos and ships and aliens, and oh my God, it was like totally different world. And I look at my body, I look at this reality, and I got a thought. I remember the thought. What if? I was immediately in my body.
Uh-huh.
That if was my fear, because I was really excited, but in fear of going into that reality, leaving my body. And I got up. And that becomes a journey for me, exploring all kinds of ways to understand the other reality. And for me, it was, in a way, eliminate the fear, because I
Mm-hmm.
want to explore. I'm very excited about it, but the fear is stopping me to do that. So I had to understand my fear. And by divine grace and divine design, I start going into journey, really long journey. I went into art, I become an artist, and then actor and director. I was playing a lot in theater. I had so many performances. I was at one point even famous. People used to recognize me on streets. My ego was really flattered.
That's
You know,
okay. Ego is great.
I had to journey. I had to go. I had to go on. I could not stay and fulfill my ego's needs to be, to exist. So I went into, and then at one point at one of my exhibition, a head of a monastery, Francisco monastery, priest came and said, we would like you, if you can, consider coming and painting our little chapel,
Wow.
making a mural. I said, I can do fresco, even though I didn't know how to do fresco, but I studied fresco. I've actually, by the way, I went to art school and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, can you do fresco? I said, yeah, I can. So he said, here's the church, do the fresco. So I stayed there for 3 years. My girlfriend abandoned me. My friends thought that I'm totally crazy. So 3 years I spent in the monastery, not seeing anyone, just monastery monks and nuns and my church, and that's all. And my brushes and my paint. And then I got disillusioned and went out, and I became a Buddhist. And then and then I went into Zen. And then I discovered, out of Zen, I discovered Tantra. And that really changed my life forever. And I start practicing Tantra so deep. Not sexual Tantra, but, the way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the sex is involved. And I've got really good
That's the
partners,
best part, no?
Lana, who is, psychologist and psychotherapist, and, really great soul. And we clicked really, really well. And at that one point, I asked myself, I was in England. The war happened in my country. We had to go out, and we are in England. I was aged 28, 29, 30, I can't remember. And then I asked myself, okay, I'm in England now. What to do? I have to seek. I have to search. I have to find a way to heal myself, because I'm coming from dysfunctional family. I went through the journey, but I didn't heal myself.
Me too, Ivan. Me too.
I didn't heal myself. It was all mental. It was all, cognitive. I was processing my ego and my mind and all of that. Still, I was fooling myself that I'm getting somewhere or knowing something, but it didn't. But actually, the divine made me go through the journey in order to understand the principles, in order to open certain portals that I can remember. And at one point in my studio in Halifax, I went deep into painting and expressing myself absolutely, vulnerably, nakedly. My beloved Lana, she was studying English and she was occupied all the time. So I said to her, I'm going for 5 days in my studio and I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to eat. I'm going to drink water and I'm going to paint all the time because I have to. And I went there and I was going into the mind. It was my turmoil. I was expressing all the frustrations. My father, anger, alcoholism, my mother, frustrations and aggression and all of those, that shit I expressed it in a canvas. I was ripping canvases. I was putting another one. I was painting over. I was just like being absolutely crazy with it. And I didn't realize that almost 5 days gone. I didn't feel that I need to sleep. It was like totally crazy, totally not being aware a little bit, being aware, but that kind of need and urge to break through. And at one point, I can't remember, but it seems like it collapsed. Can't remember how. It's just like blank. I'm on the floor and I could not move my body. I didn't have any thoughts. It seems like forever. I'm in that zombie state, looking at the ceiling at one dot, being aware that I'm down and I cannot move, but even not having a will to move my legs or anything else. It's like being numb totally, being okay with it, being in fear of it, and also excited about it because I know that something is going on. The same feeling that I had when I lifted my body.
So was it like a sleeping paralysis?
Sleeping paralysis, but with awareness.
Yeah.
Stay there for.
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't know for how long I stayed there. I don't know how long, but I know at one point the thought came. And the same thought. What if?
It got you back?
What if?
Ah.
And the thought was there, and I was here. And I could see the thought morphing into shapes, geometrical shapes. As the thought was morphing into geometrical shapes, the thought will move into different expression. And then I will have different understanding. It's like a geometry it's like someone operating the mind with the energy and the thoughts and presenting it to me as a sacred geometry, changing the thoughts, changing the imprint, changing the information. And I've been observing it, being neutral to it. I was not sucking it. I was not thinking, because there is no way to think about it. It's me here being aware of something that's happening outside. And all kinds of triangles and shapes and forms. And at one point it clicked. I start thinking, saying Yantra. Because I've been studying Yantra all life, Tantra is very much linked with Yantra. It is Tantra and yoga with Yantra is the, enlightenment is inevitable. so that and that thought that I created Yantra, I start moving my fingers, I start moving my muscles, and I got up and I felt so tired. I don't know how I get home. I really don't know. But I know that I was sleeping for 3 days. And then I got up and everything changed. And I knew that Yantra is the way to heal. Because Yantra comes from the higher dimension of awareness. Call it God, call it the truth. It's also like a message, sacred geometry, blueprint for certain experience, and or as a portal to certain state of the consciousness. So, and from that point, I start exploring more about Yantra, learning more, diving into, trying to find a way to make myself comfortable with it. Myself, and I talk about myself, my consciousness, but my mind was interfering all the time. It's like my mind wanting to go into this, expressionistic way, or wanting to make a statement, or wanting to make certain representation of something that I think it's valuable or not, what I believe and what I define as real or not. When I say me, it's my mind. So the confusion between my consciousness and my mind. So I could not figure out what to do with and as I said, I wanted to be absolutely certain and satisfied with it in order to present and say, here's the healing tool. And by the way, in the meantime, me and my beloved Lana, we were going through some difficult state of even wanting to divorce.
Me too. Exactly at that time.
And I said, honey, I read, by the way, I read Castaneda's books Don Juan time ago when I was 12. And I wanted to go to ayahuasca. And I said, one day I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go to astral plane. But in the meantime, I don't want this external medicine to help me, to guide me to that plane. I wanted to do it myself because of the book and practice I did, and I lifted my astral body. So I'm gonna do it. But when I'm ready, I was not practicing, lifting my body since that experience. Never. Because I said,
I wanted to ask.
I understand until I eliminate the fear.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, if I may. From that very first exit that you had, how long time did the next one? So was that when you went to the 5-day painting?
Yeah.
So that was the next time. So it's been a long time between the first one and the next one.
Exactly. And in two, I was learning. I was actually I understand now what my journey was. My journey was to understand the mechanical aspect of my mind. I was not having, the task to understand that. It was like I had to go through experience, immerse myself into experience, and suffer and seek and try to find, understand, put certain things in certain perspective, whether it's real or not, have to question and journey and understand, for God's sake. And again, I got it, but I really didn't, because, how can you understand the mind from the perspective of mind? So, but you have to go through these two, interacting, and then, end up the journey with consciousness and evaluate the experience. Say, oh, what was that? Oh, that was me experiencing my mind and understanding the mechanism of my mind. Oh, I see my glitches. Oh, I see my faults. Oh, I see what I'm able and capable of doing. Wow, I see how the vision works. I see how the motivation works. I see when I sabotage myself. I can see everything positive and negative about myself. Now, I've got deep understanding about my attachments to the mind. And I can understand the mind in general, because my mind represents the social mind. And my mind is not actually my mind, it's the social mind. Because they indoctrinated me with
It's an installation.
It's installation. So since,
Yeah.
age 3, everyone is saying, how beautiful you are. Oh, very clever you. Or don't do that, do this.
But you do not exist.
Every single command, out of compassion and love, of course. I mean, then you imprint certain thoughts into the gap, into open flute called no mind. We are all born with a tube called no mind. It's a machine. It's an organic machine. It's a tool. Let's say the mind is like a tube. On one side is the God, on the other side is you. And there is a movement of energy. God loves you, you love God, God loves himself, you love yourself. There is that kind of oneness. The moment society jumps and starts giving you thoughts of you are this, you are that, when you start exploring it subjectively, then you say, oh, I'm this, I'm that, because my mother said that. So you start developing that I with full of thoughts. The first thought is I, and all other thoughts start coming like a little flies on the shit. You see?
Yeah, exactly. But that's how it is. That's how it is.
Depends on your environment, depends on your family, depends on your teacher, depends on so many things there, and people interacting with you and giving you this, giving you that, emotionally, mentally, physically. They are giving you thoughts, and then you start collecting those thoughts, and you collect them. And approximately, people will collect 60 to 70,000 thoughts. They will consider their thoughts of who they are. They will identify with those thoughts. And that's it becomes a construct of personality. The personality is created. And then people start, and then all your life is to, little mend that personality, that bunch of thoughts that you call me, I, whatever, and never ever, changing it or distancing itself from those thoughts. And that's deep attachments to something that you're not. So I understood that, so I understand the mechanism of my mind. And then the point of whether Yantra can heal. I knew that can heal. It healed me. But how to create Yantra that can heal others? And then, as I said, my beloved Lana and I were almost getting divorced. And I said, honey, let's go to ayahuasca. She said, yeah, let's go. So we went to ayahuasca and we stayed together, and I got it. I went into higher astral, and then I went into cosmic part of it. And I saw it. I saw that my intent will create sacred geometry. And I've been an artist, and I've been exploring lines and dots and all of that all my life. So it makes easy for me to formulate the geometry that can represent certain aspect, and then taking it out and creating in 3D reality as a two-dimensional image. So that two-dimensional image is not two-dimensional because it's not abstract. It is sacred. It is archetypal. It is universal. It is since the beginning. It's a sacred divine equation. So represented as 2D image, when you interact with it, it becomes a portal where you start seeing yourself, where you start interacting with yourself, when you start paying attention to what is real and seeing the illusion as the inevitable aspect of the experience in order for you to understand your inner self and to connect to that even divine, that divine aspect of wholeness that's in your heart, in yourself.
Okay. Now, the most amazing insight that I just got while speaking with you. Have a very similar history. I have a very almost identical experience. We never ever spoke. This is the first time that we see each other. I mean, we did write, but I did tell you I don't want to talk to you until we do it live because I had so much to share. And now I'm really blown away. First of all, a month after I started with the Lotus meditation, I had my very first out of body. And at that time, I was involved with a German startup and I was losing it. We had to fire 40 employees. We had to go bankrupt. It didn't work. And the loss was, it was millions of euros of investors' money, which I was responsible for. So I had a really big crisis, and my wife, she wanted to leave me, and everything was bad work-wise, and I didn't want to go on. So I came back from a business trip, and I lay down in my bed. I was devastated, and I just kept repeating that I'm dropping my expectations because I was still going in it. Actually, that was before I got the book. That was before I started the meditation. So I was still going on the dropping our expectations. And you know what happened? I was really tired, and I was laying there, and all I wanted to do is just to repeat my sentence. And I repeated, and I repeated, and I repeated, and suddenly, in the darkness of my eyes, it started to spin. Like, you know, there was some like flashes, and you know, I kind of like looked into them, like I penetrate through them, and then I will never forget it, never. Then there was like a shake. The whole bed was like, it was like an earthquake. It was like, what the hell? And then it was a clap like that. It wasn't this house. And then I just got spit out, and I got out, and I looked back, and I saw myself there laying on my left, you know, like crumbled. I heard me breathing. I heard my daughter in the separate room. I heard every single bush of the leaves of the bushes outside. I heard the cat next to me. And at the same time, there was a dead silence. There was a silence like in the outer space movies, like the silence of the silence. And there was a tone. There was like a beep. And I was looking at all of this. I got really scared first because, look, I was totally sober. I wasn't drinking back then already for a couple of years. Wasn't smoking anything. I was completely sober. I saw myself, and then I could feel that it was something here in the stomach. Something in the stomach was moving me. And you know, after like, because obviously this was crazy. Like I thought I died. I thought I was dead. But you know, I felt like I was God himself. I don't mean it from an ego perspective. I mean it from the perspective of I was everything, and everything was me. And through the feeling in the stomach, I started to move back to the body. Not outer space, not anywhere. I got back into the body. And you know, like in the Star Wars or like these cosmic movies when they turn hyperspace?
Yeah.
I went through this hyperspace, and then everything froze. And then I was in a space where it was space, it was like total space, and there was millions and trillions of two-dimensional cloud looking like caricatures full of colors that are not, I mean, I can't even express these colors. And in those colors, there were humans, there were animals, there were beings I never seen before. They were endless over everywhere. They were just orbiting around me. And then again, through the stomach, you know, I moved one more. Again, the same, like couple of seconds. Again, the same. These cloud shapes with colors all looking at me in there. And then I went again. And at the end, there was only one cloud. And I don't know, that was some being. I'm not sure who it was. But I didn't want to come back. Because at that time, I just, learned something new through the cards. I just got a new body, but then because it was waning off and I had to have all these business meetings, I had to break up with my best friend and the wife and everything. I was so screwed up that I didn't want to go back, and I didn't want to go back to be sick. And you know what got me back? Because that night when I came, I had pizza with my employees, with the remaining employees in Germany. Yeah. And I can't eat that because I had to go on a diet since 2012. Since they diagnosed me, I went on a diet because of the arthritis. But I had the pizza. I got constipation and it literally sucked myself out of the ass. It started to hurt in my ass, really. And it started to hurt so much, and I got sucked, and I woke up. I was like, what the fuck happened? Because I was all sweating and all wet. I was shaking, and I didn't know what was out of body. I wasn't seeking it. I wasn't seeking like really spirituality. I was not just a guy, just a guy. And I rushed to get the diary and rushed to the toilet to write the whole thing down. I wanted to share this story with you since this happened, because since then I thought, what the hell was that? And of course, obviously, then, one of my developers that I work with the startup, he came to visit me, and I told him about this dream, and he said, oh, you gotta read Castaneda. And I said, Castaneda? Who's Castaneda? Yeah, he said he wrote about the dreams and stuff. And I thought that Castaneda, he wrote about the Don Juan the lover,
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, but he wrote about the lover. He said, no. And of course, I read the Castaneda. I was blown away because I couldn't let the book down, because it described the warrior concepts, which I realized I saw many of the concepts. I didn't know they were concepts. But my life, I did them throughout my life, like changing personal history, for example. I did that when I had bad company, and there were drugs, because I was like really living in a bad neighborhood. So I would move and delete those those people, get them out of my life to move on. When I was reading the book, I thought, how can this be concept? I mean, this is how I've been living. So I got really attached to the book, and of course, I wanted to repeat what happened because I wanted to get back there. And it took me some time, to be able to do it. And now, of course, I can do it. And when you said about the geometry, one time I was lucky. I got an out of body, and I came into a place where there was only geometrical figures. They circled like around me. They were alive. Two of them even approached me. And I got the realization that maybe they have created us, because, first of all, everything is numbers here, right? Everything is cycles. Everything is cyclical. Yeah? And we have the geometry in all the plants and the trees. I mean, look at the leaves. Look at the cabbage. Look at the tomato. Everywhere is geometry.
It is geometry, brother. You see, in sacred geometry, there are two principles, only two principles. One is the point, another one is reflection. 2 points, nothing else. The dot and the line. And the line is not line, it cannot be, because it does not exist. Line does not exist. What exists is the dot reflecting itself in appearance of the line, jumping from place to place, giving appearance. So depending on the distance, you project yourself, you reflect yourself in the distance. Immediately, the space has to be filled with so many dots because of the movement. The movement and the moment. Those are two principles. So the moment is you. The movement is your experience. So you have to move in order to come back to yourself. That's the experience. That's why there's circle around. Because line is not a line, it cannot be. Because line will come to itself. It will form a circle. So there are only two archetypal shapes that I consider sacred. And that's the dot and the line. The line is the enclosure, enclosing the space where you claim your sovereignty and say, this is my little universe. I'm going to be creative in my universe.
Mm-hmm.
My little cell. And there are hundreds of billions of cells in my own being, but this cell is what I'm going to pay attention to. So it becomes individual universe in the wholeness of the one universe. All other principles, all other archetypal shapes are the consequence of the dot and its expression line, called line, which becomes a circle. So the dot is your, and the circle is your soul. So you enclose yourself with that energy of soul, divine aspect of who you are, where you become creative in that universe. Yeah.
You make so much sense to me, Ivan. Like, I can't express it. Look, I wanted to ask you this since 5 years. You know, I have had a few out of bodies now. I know how to do it. But I never had that first one, ever. And you know what?
You didn't have what?
I didn't have that first one.
Oh, okay.
Was very special comparing to all the other ones. The other ones, they seem fake. But that's not what I want to ask you. What I want to ask you is that, remember I told you, I didn't go to space. I went into my body. And you know, those floating, colorful, cloudy things with awarenesses inside, you know, the insight that I got, that was the evolution of every single cell in the body. And the body is a space, because they were aware. They were all aware in there. And I didn't go somewhere out there, because I've been to the Milky Way and stuff like that. It's not the same. That first time, I went out and went back in.
So, you see, what's in, what's out. There's no in, there is no out.
That's true.
To grasp, you know, there's no above, there's no below, there's no left, there's no right. You know, there's this moment of now, and in this moment of now, you exist and the universe exists, your body exists, and everything else exists in this moment of now. So there's no in and out. It's just matter of perception, you know, and matter of whether you are absolutely tuned with your consciousness, or whether you are still used and abused by your mind, you know, because it's unconscious process. You know, there is a conscious process, there's unconscious process. So unconsciousness is our mind. So we have to journey through our mind in order to come to the consciousness. But, you know, we call it conscious mind. Mind cannot be conscious. It is us who is giving power to the mind, who is not, who is just social idea, nothing else. So it's illusionary aspect. So everything that you experience in that mind is subject to division between two, in and out, positive, negative. All the duality is there. Duality is embedded in the mind, because that's what, you know, that's what structure wants you to be and to believe, that you can be owned and controlled. You know, if you are attached to the mind, you are owned and controlled, and there's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. And that's what's called reincarnation karma. There's no way out of it. The only way out of it is not to get out of it, but to be aware that there's nothing.
Only to be aware.
Nothing else. You can't do anything.
You can just be
the mind,
the participant and the observer.
Just even that's not doing, but we call it doing. You know, when you observe, when you witness something. So witnessing is the consciousness, and witnessing is neutral. You're neutral. Yes, of course, you see positive and negative. That's your power. You see your positive thinking, you see your negative thinking. You cannot own yourself before you own your mind. But you cannot own your mind. You can only be aware of your mind, and that awareness of your mind as illusionary aspect of you, you own your mind. Then the thoughts will be in your service. You know, of course, you will go in and out, but you know that you are beyond in and out. You are that neutral point of who you are right now, that dot, which is infinitely burning. And that's the light within, you see. That's God within, that little dot containing everything. Because your body was born out of one little
dot.
The whole universe was born out of one particle.
Yeah.
Other particles are just reflection of that particle. And that's what sacred geometry and Yantra is teaching us, to pay attention to the dot, not to circumstance, but to the dot. You see? Because dot is you. Dot is nothing else than you. That's
You
the
make
God.
me so happy today. I feel that I'm almost related to you. Like, no, really. Like, it's such a similar experience. It's such a similar understanding. When you talked about the amount of thoughts, you know, you and I, we didn't speak like about it at all. But if you look at my website, that's exactly what I worked on, because through my practice, because of you, I've done exactly that. So I cut them down. So I have a lot of silence now, obviously. I also figured out the different algorithms of breathing. So we can breathe in a certain algorithm and have certain thoughts, and we can breathe in another algorithm and we have other type of thoughts. And I also figured out that the whole life experience, you know, it's between the inhale and the exhale. Because I've seen my daughter, I witnessed her born. I was in the room. And when she got out, she inhaled, you know, started crying. So we start with the inhale and we finish with the exhale. We don't know when it finished, but between every inhale and the exhale, there is 100,000 feelings all day long. So if you play with the breath, when you play with the breath and you extend it, and I do it for the syllables, I sing them, then you can stretch the void between the thinking. And you can, it's like, I use the analogy when I talk to my students, that consider it's a train, a long one, with 6,000 cars, for example. And every time, I mean, they're connected because it's running. The train is running all the time. It's running and running. So when you go through the breathing and the singing and the counting, you get into between the cards, and through distancing, you know, through the breath, you extend and you extend and you extend the distance between the cards, and eventually they fall off and fall off and fall off. Because the worst thing is, these thoughts are repetitive every single day, and we are not even aware of them, that they are the same. It's just month after month, day after day, it's the same shit we're talking about in our mind, and we don't remember it.
No, we don't. You see, you just mentioned you were talking about repeating the thought all the time, repeating the thought in your head, remembering the thought. You know, you will lost that thought, you will go into other thinking, but at one point you will remember, you will remind yourself to remember, and then you remember, and then you go, you know. So that's the quality of Zen that you practice. That's the Zen.
But you know, Ivan, I did never read anything apart. Like, this is the only thing that I've done. And then for a long time, your book, I didn't want to do anything else, just wanted to practice the meditation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Castañeda. So Castañeda, because, you know, I haven't been a big reader in my life, because my mom, she's a Soviet, you know, really hardcore. So she forced me to do things when I was a little boy, to read things. And I really didn't like reading, because she forced me to read stuff that I didn't like. So, of course, I read a lot of books now, a lot. I do it all the time. I like to listen to them and so on. But when I got Castañeda, couldn't let go of it. Like, there was never a book in my life that I couldn't let go of. So I read a lot about that. And here, this last year, I done a lot of other, like, I trained for, you know, Buteyko breathing method, done some Tibetan breathing. So really started to study, you know, some other things. But Ivan, what I've done, I have been practicing breathing since that day. every single day. Every single day, at least 1 hour I have done. So I have over 2,000 hours of practice. And when I start reading something today, I'm like, there is a theory behind that, but I already know because I'm a practitioner. I'm not a theorist. I just do stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing because I like to experiment and do everything wrong, and mess everything up, even mess up my body because I done the breathing a lot of times wrong. But I know now because I learned through the practice.
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, learning from mistakes. You come to learn differently.
There's no mistakes.
Way.
It's just a learning curve. You just
Now,
try.
Now,
Yeah.
if you create deliberate mistake, that would be great. I mean,
Yeah.
I just remember now, Buddha was walking with his disciple Ananda, and it was full of questions, always asking questions. Buddha will be in meditation, but out of compassion, he would answer because he wanted to help. Sometimes Ananda will annoy him, but hey, we are all humans at the end. Sometimes might come and sneak in. So Buddha was walking and Ananda was talking to him and asking questions. And the fly was going around Buddha's head. And he landed on his hand. And Buddha slapped himself. But before he slapped himself, the fly went off. Ananda was there. And Buddha was in that position for a long time. And Ananda was looking at him. And he said, "Oh, sir, the fly is gone." And Ananda was really, in awe that Buddha was not moving at all. And out of blue, Buddha hit himself again. And Ananda now was really shocked. He said, "Sir, I told you fly is gone. Why are you hitting yourself again?" And Buddha said, "I made a mistake. I'm correcting now my mistake with hitting myself again. Because I'm not going to repeat the mistake again. Because I did it consciously. So every unconscious act, is the mistake, is a sin. That's what sin is, making a mistake, not knowing what you're doing. Acting out of your reflex, out of your past, out of learned, out of your personality, out of your misery, out of your wounded self. Be aware. Awareness is right now. Don't bring past into the moment. Don't react. Act. Be aware. And that's
exactly. Exactly.
And you were talking about Zen, that the one thought. If you can practice one thought and be consistent in it and ponder over it, just remember it and just hit it. Hit the mind with the thought. Hit the mind. It's like moving all the energy that are scattered into one point and then hitting that point. At one point, the mind will break. It has to.
Totally.
But now it depends on what thought you are exercising. Because every thought is an energy, certain aspect of energy. But the thought that you exercise may be yours, but it's not. 99.99% it's not.
No, so it's the layers on the hard disk.
Okay, so
Ivan, let me stop this because otherwise it cannot be saved, and I'm gonna start another one, okay? Because I want to save this message. So just, the recording. So just reconnect in 2 minutes, okay?
Can I go to washroom?
Yeah, go. I'm gonna just save this one and I'll start a new one. And everybody who's watching, just come back to us because we're not done yet. We're going to do meditation.
Okay.